The Jeffrey Epstein scandal has erupted into a full-blown crisis for Donald Trump's administration, with survivors of Epstein's horrific crimes stepping into the spotlight to demand justice and transparency. At a historic press conference on Capitol Hill, over a dozen courageous women, backed by bipartisan lawmakers, exposed the Trump administration's desperate attempts to bury the truth about Epstein's so-called client list and their own complicity in protecting the billionaire elite. The White House is in a tailspin, with Trump floundering under the weight of his own lies, contradictions, and a glaring inability to confront the reality of his long-standing ties to Epstein. This is no longer a scandal Trump can dodge. It's a reckoning, and it's shaking the very foundations of his presidency. Let's be clear. Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein isn't some distant footnote. It's a glaring red flag that's been flapping in the wind for decades. For 15 years, Trump and Epstein were thick as thieves, jet-setting between Manhattan and Palm Beach, schmoozing at parties filled with young women, and even competing over who could claim the most beautiful ones, as Trump himself bragged in a 2002 New York Magazine interview. He called Epstein a terrific guy who shared his taste for women on the younger side. That's not a casual acquaintance. That's a bromance built on a shared appetite for excess and entitlement. But now, with the Epstein files resurfacing and survivors refusing to be silenced, Trump's scrambling to rewrite history, and it's a pathetic spectacle. The Trump administration's handling of the Epstein case is a masterclass in dysfunction. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who once cozied up to Trump with campaign donations, briefed him in May 2025 that his name appears multiple times in the Justice Department's Epstein files. Yet, instead of coming clean, Trump's team has doubled down on denial, claiming there's no client list and no reason to release more documents. This is the same Trump who, during his campaign, fueled conspiracy theories about Epstein's death and promised to unveil the truth. Now, he's backpedaling faster than a clown on a unicycle, calling the entire scandal a Democrat hoax and dismissing his own supporters as weaklings for daring to demand answers. It's a betrayal so blatant it's almost performance art. The Justice Department's latest stunt is a 337-page transcript of a cozy, laugh-filled interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's convicted accomplice, conducted by none other than Trump's former personal lawyer, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Over 2 days in July 2025, Maxwell, a woman serving 20 years for sex trafficking, was allowed to spin her tales without a stenographer present, resulting in a transcript that's as reliable as a Trump University diploma. The room, filled with Maxwell's lawyers and Trump's Justice Department cronies, reportedly erupted in laughter as they discussed the horrific abuse of young girls. Laughter. Let that sink in. While survivors like Anuska DeGiorgio and Marina Lacerda were reliving their trauma, Maxwell was chuckling her way through a cushy interrogation, later rewarded with a transfer to a minimum security prison in Texas. If that doesn't scream corruption, what does? Trump's attempts to distance himself from Epstein are as flimsy as his comb-over in a windstorm. He claims they fell out in 2004 over a real estate deal, or because Epstein stole employees from Mar-a-Lago, including Virginia Giuffre, a prominent Epstein accuser who tragically died by suicide in April 2025. But the timeline is murky, and Trump's own words betray him. Flight logs show he took at least 7 trips on Epstein's private plane in the 1990s, and survivors like Chauncey Davies recall Epstein boasting about their friendship, complete with a framed photo of the duo on his desk. Trump's sudden amnesia about his terrific guy is as believable as his claims of electoral fraud in 2020. He's not just dodging accountability, he's orchestrating a cover-up to protect himself and his billionaire buddies. The White House's panic is palpable. Trump's team thought they could bury this scandal by releasing heavily redacted documents, 33,000 pages, 97% of which were already public, and calling it transparency. But survivors and lawmakers aren't buying it. The House Oversight Committee, led by Republicans like James Comer, is complicit in this farce, curating files to shield the powerful, while survivors beg for their own documents to piece together their shattered lives. Trump's own party is fracturing, with rebels like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene joining Democrats like Ro Khanna to push for a full release of the Epstein files. Even MAGA loyalists like Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer are turning on Trump, warning that this scandal could consume his presidency. When your own base starts smelling the rot, you know you're in trouble. The real heroes of this saga are the Epstein survivors who refuse to let Trump's lies silence them. At a September 3, 2025, press conference on Capitol Hill, over a dozen women, including Anouska DeGiorgio, Marina Lacerda, and Haley Robson, stood shoulder to shoulder with lawmakers to demand the release of all Epstein files. Their stories were gut-wrenching. DeGiorgio, trembling but resolute, spoke of the threats she faced from Epstein and Maxwell, including warnings of severe consequences if she spoke out. Lacerda, who testified in Epstein's 2019 indictment, recounted the terror of believing her family in Brazil was at risk. Robson, abused at 16, was forced to recruit other girls from her high school, only to be treated as a criminal herself. These women aren't just survivors, they're warriors, exposing a system that protected Epstein and Maxwell while dismissing their pain. The bombshell dropped when survivor Lisa Phillips announced that since the Trump administration refuses to release the elusive client list, the survivors are compiling their own. This confidential list, built by and for survivors, aims to name every individual involved in Epstein and Maxwell's crimes. "We know the names. Many of us were abused by them," Phillips declared, sending shockwaves through the White House. This move is a direct challenge to Trump's narrative that no such list exists. The survivors list isn't just a record. It's a weapon, a testament to their resilience, and a warning to the powerful that their secrets won't stay buried forever. The fear in Trump's camp is undeniable. They know this list could implicate not just Epstein's inner circle, but potentially members of Trump's own cabinet, as Maxwell hinted during her interview with Blanche. Trump's response? Call it a hoax and hope it goes away. At a White House event on September 3rd, 2025, he doubled down, dismissing the survivors' pleas as a Democrat hoax that never ends. This from a man who once promised to expose Epstein's secrets, but now hides behind his own Justice Department's stonewalling. His refusal to meet with survivors, despite their heartfelt invitations, reveals a cowardice that undercuts his tough guy persona. Anouska DeGiorgio, a registered Republican, pleaded, "Mr. President, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person, so you can understand this is not a hoax." Trump's silence speaks volumes. He's not just weak, he's terrified of facing the women he's failed. The survivors' press conference was a masterstroke, uniting Republicans and Democrats in a rare bipartisan push. Representatives Massey and Khanna, backed by Green, are championing a discharge petition to force a House vote on releasing the Epstein files. This petition needs just 5 more Republican signatures to succeed, a prospect that has House Speaker Mike Johnson sweating. Johnson, ever loyal to Trump, called the petition a hostile act and pushed a toothless resolution instead, claiming it protects victims. But survivors like Teresa Helm see through the charade, slamming the Justice Department for elevating Maxwell's manipulative voice over their own. The contrast couldn't be starker. While survivors demand justice, Trump's team laughs with a convicted sex trafficker and buries the truth. This scandal lays bare the ugly truth about Trump's America. It's a two-tiered system where the rich and powerful skate free, while victims are left to fend for themselves. Epstein's 2008 plea deal, which allowed him to escape federal charges and continue his crimes, was a textbook example of billionaire privilege. Trump's current refusal to release the full Epstein files mirrors that leniency, protecting the elite, while survivors like Gina Lisa Jones, who was 14 when Epstein abused her, are denied closure. Jones's tearful plea, "I know I was just a little kid, but sometimes I still feel it was my fault," is a damning indictment of a system that prioritizes predators over victims. Trump's defenders claim he's an outsider fighting the establishment, but his actions tell a different story. He's the ultimate insider, shielding his wealthy allies while dismissing survivors as pawns in a political game. The Justice Department's decision to interview Maxwell, a known perjurer, without pressing her on key details, like her cryptic reference to Epstein's associates in Trump's cabinet, reeks of a cover-up. Why didn't Blanche demand names? Because the truth might implicate Trump's inner circle, if not Trump himself. The transfer of Maxwell to a cushier prison shortly after her interview only fuels suspicions of a quid pro quo, with a potential pardon dangling as bait. Even Trump's own party is starting to crack under the pressure. The House Oversight Committee's release of 33,000 pages of mostly public documents was a pathetic attempt at transparency, with critics like Representative Robert Garcia noting that 97% of the material was already available. The committee's refusal to push for unredacted files, coupled with Comer's reluctance to sign off on a subpoena, shows how deeply Trump's influence runs. Yet, the survivors' courage is forcing a reckoning. Their press conference, attended by over 100 victims and advocates, has shifted the narrative, putting Trump on the defensive and exposing his administration's complicity in protecting the powerful. Trump's handling of the Epstein scandal is a microcosm of his presidency: chaotic, self-serving, and utterly divorced from reality. His attempts to deflect, blaming Democrats, Obama, or even the media, only highlight his desperation. The man who once thrived on conspiracy theories now finds himself ensnared by them, with his own base turning against him. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and even Elon Musk have questioned Trump's refusal to release the files, with Musk tweeting that Trump is in the Epstein files. The MAGAverse, once Trump's unwavering cheerleader, is fracturing, with influencers like Charlie Kirk reluctantly stepping back after initially demanding answers. This isn't leadership, it's a meltdown. The Survivor's press conference has humiliated Trump, exposing his weakness and cowardice. While he hides behind podiums and platitudes, women like Marina Lacerda and Haley Robson are reclaiming their power, demanding accountability, and compiling a list that could unravel Trump's carefully crafted image. Their message is clear: we are not going away. Trump's dismissal of their pain as a hoax only deepens his disgrace, proving he's more concerned with protecting his ego than delivering justice. The White House's panic is justified. This scandal isn't just a political headache, it's a moral failure that could define Trump's second term.